This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Yes, life is good, Ira. Nobody's having a better season than Bitcoin. That's all I can tell you. All right. Am I wrong about Inter Miami? They're the Doug Moe of the MLS.
Yeah, but then why do they trade away defensive depth like they had when they look? Everyone they have is sort of an older offensive player who's not going to get back that much. The one thing about Messi that people forget about for years, I mean, he crosses midfield how often, going back the other way. He lingers, he loiters, and it's what he does best, and I have no issue. You get an older Suarez, it's going to be the same thing. You have to be able to cover defensively for that. You have to have guys who are lockdown defenders, and instead you trade Yedlin, you trade someone who can
Miller.
anchor.
Come on, Miller, I thought made some plays last year. Now, some tell me he's a little overrated, but he's better than having Kristoff out there. Jesus Christ, dude.
How old is Kristoff? When I look at that guy, 50?
He's older than me, that's for sure. And
I mean, really, he has that look of a senior league kind of player, and it's almost like they're getting back to where they were before the whole Messi thing, when they basically had guys loitering for goals, but guys who weren't getting back playing two-way soccer, and you pay for that. Because even in this league, there's enough striker quality and enough number nines who are going to create problems for you if you don't have the right matchup. That's what they're doing right now. So the old outscore you kind of thing can get old and tiresome in a hurry.
I'm with you there. All right. Man, I thought I was wrong. I thought they were turning the corner. Now they've lost 3 in a row, 4 of 6, Ira. Our boy Bam doesn't really, stars doesn't really shine.
Something's off. Something's off there more than just Bam being supporting role player Bam, whatever you call him. Something significant is off. And look, I think when you look at the Dallas and Oklahoma City games, just alone those two, they played well. They played well on the road against quality teams. They were there at the finish. They showed the ability to compete. I had no issue coming home 0-2 in that trip. Now, last night against Washington is completely different. And this, to me, this is what I call, Big O, a how dare you loss. How dare you take anyone too lightly when you have such a fine margin of error going in with the play-in and getting playoff seeds that literally you could see the Heat. They got down 110, 100, and they said, okay, now we're going to start playing. How dare you?
Well, wait a minute. You opened up the press conference by asking, coach to describe it, and he said, no, we didn't overlook them and all that. They obviously outplayed us, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but he feels like his team didn't overlook them. And see, here's the problem that I have with all of this. I get confused. I don't know what I'm watching sometimes. Are you really trying, or were you just bad? Because sometimes you can be bad. And so, yesterday it was you didn't shoot the 3 well, you didn't defend well. Kuzma, Jesus Christ, what, he had 6 threes in the fourth quarter?
I mean, they've had a guy go off in 3 straight games, and Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's one thing. And then Kyle Kuzma. Jimmy Butler is funny. I spoke to Jimmy privately after the game in Oklahoma City. And Jimmy goes, the end of his televised interview, which he finished, he said, look, every team has someone who can score. Then they were done. Jason Jackson walked away. I go, okay, you got Washington next. And he goes, Kuzma, if he takes enough shots. And that's the thing. They let the one guy who could beat them. You can't let that happen. It's one thing when you're playing Dallas and you also have Kyrie on the other side. It's one thing when you're playing Oklahoma City and they have an incredibly deep roster, including Jalen Williams. But let's face it, Jordan Poole was awful yesterday. I didn't even notice he was out there. There was no one else but Kyle Kuzma who could beat them. And you don't pick him up in transition and you let him get the ball that freely and be himself. The one thing we've known about Kuz over the years, he's also beaten the Heat in Lakers colors and other teams also, is you've got to keep him from getting that feeling of getting on a roll. They didn't. So I agree. Eric Spoelstra, they had a game plan. Eric Spoelstra, they came out strong, but then they lollygagged. And what's happening now, Big O, and I think this is an issue. If the Heat are calling on Jimmy Butler to be playoff Jimmy now on March 9th, when you're going to need him on May 9th and hopefully on June 9th, That's too much to ask of Jimmy Butler. There has to be someone else, and Bam hasn't been that guy.
Well, yeah, no, and he'll never be that. It's just not in him. It's not in his DNA. And by the way, here's the other thing that I keep saying to people. For a big man, he's not an efficient player, actually. If you really look at it, like yesterday, what was it, 14 shots in order?
7 to 14, I'm fine with. The 2 and 6 from the foul line threw him off, but they're not the highest percentage shots at the rim.
But he's not. He's actually shooting closer to the rim now. I need you to shoot at a higher percent because that's something we've talked about. That I said he's not. He shouldn't be shooting a whole bunch of 16 and 18 footers. That's really not his game. And since he doesn't have, even though he has the skill set, it's just not, the inner confidence is not in there. There's no swag for that. So I want you to play closer, and he is playing closer, but 7 of 14 for a big man? No, brother, I need you in the 60s. That's where
you know what? It's interesting, Big O. You can relate to this. It used to be an NFL quarterback, if he completed 50% of his passes, was fine. Yeah. Then 60% was fine. Now, all of a sudden, when they move closer to the West Coast offense and the throws were short, like with Tua, you got to get in the upper 60s, maybe even to 70s. You can't afford the misses. So what you're missing is sort of those gimme putts. And I think right now, Bam has the yips when it comes to that. But other teams are now packing the paint against the Heat and daring someone else. And let's face it, Terry Rozier is a nice player. He's not an all-star. He's a nice player. You and I, for years, have been talking about that Heat third element. Maybe this is where they truly miss Tyler Hero. This is certainly where they miss Damian Lillard, and you can see why they made the play for Lillard or someone like that. That's the problem right now. If you shut down 2 Heat players, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, you've got the Heat. God bless Duncan Robinson. He'll be hot. He'll be not hot. But like one of my readers said today, he's a complimentary player. If you're telling me, and you're going on the accurate Pembroke Pines report and telling Big O that Duncan didn't make shots so they lost, you're counting on Duncan Robinson too much. He's a complimentary player.
Yeah, everybody's a complimentary player. Around Jimmy Butler, everybody is a complimentary player. And what I do want to ask you is, was it a watershed moment, a bad one for the Miami Heat in the Dallas game by exposing, hey, let's double Jimmy, let's make his life impossible, because there is no other guy that is going to say, oh, really? Okay, that's fine. I'll take over and I'll start scoring. I think Jaquez has that it quality to him that eventually he can grow into that. But at the moment, I can't expect him to be that.
I'm going to disagree with you, Big O, for one reason here. Jaime's game too mirrors Jimmy's game to play with Jimmy. In other words, when Jimmy's not on the court, Jaime can be Jimmy. God bless him. But he's a guy who wants to be in the paint, wants to be on the block, wants to shoot more 2s than 3s. Matter of fact, when he's on the court with Jimmy, if you notice, he's spotting up in the corner for 3s. He's trying to get out of the way and let Jimmy be Jimmy. So the whole churn over these years has been for that sidekick with Jimmy. Could it be Tyler Hero, or is he a 6th man? They spend a first-round pick on Terry Rozier, who in that Dallas game was very good and almost brought them back at the end. But again, there's the different bars. There's this bar of being the guy, and there's this bar of being in the middle and being a nice, complimentary player. The Heat need to get more out of it. Maybe Tyler is that guy. Maybe he comes back with a bang. But we're back where we've always been, relying on Tyler to be sort of more than a +1, a little bit more. And the other thing about Bam is...
Why do we do that when he's never done it? It's just he had that one moment in the bubble, and it's really never, ever repeated itself, and he cannot even stay on the court for a long period of time.
I can't argue that anymore. Yeah.
No, of course
you win.
He's as unreliable as it gets, dude. And that's my problem with him. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I can live with Bam. I love Bam's game.
He shows up every night. He shows up every night.
Right. I just define his game differently than others that are saying, oh, he's franchise, he's star. No, he's not. He's a super role player. He's fantastic. I want him. I love him. Look, what we've done with that position is we've improved it overall. It used to be Grant Long. Then it became P.J. Brown. Then it became Udonis Haslem. And now it's Bam. It's the same dude. None of them are stars, but they're all like guys you have to have on your team because they're so glue. They're so important to your existence.
Well, and I want to just interject here one thing. And keep in mind one thing, and this is important. Bam did not look great last night. You can argue Bam didn't even look good, but Big O, he gave you 16 points and 16 rebounds. So he found a way through his struggles to at least be productive. So you know what? When we're talking about who didn't get it done last night for the Heat, I'm not going to put Bam at the very bottom as the cause and the blame of that. He still pushed his way through. He still gave you that workman-like effort. This is still a disjointed, mismatched roster.
No. You are 1,000% right with that statement, because if you are expecting him to be the offensive bailout, then you're miscasting him, and you're the one with the problem, not Bam. Bam did what yesterday. He had 16 points and 16 rebounds,
a couple of steals and a block. Yeah.
The only thing you really can hammer him for is, brother, you can't go 2 of 6 from the free throw line.
And he knows it, and he's in a funk, and you feel terrible for him when he gets to the line right now. One other point I'll make on Bam. Without a true point guard, Bam is not getting the ball in the best position. If you go to the games, you're going to notice this. His post-ups are almost starting at the three-point line. Kyle Lowry would get him on the block and go to work. You know, we talk about this all the time. We talked about it with Ryan Tannehill for years.
Great point.
Quarterback is an innate position in the NFL. Point guard is an innate position in the NBA. Right now, the players that heat up point guard, Terry Rozier is not an innate point guard. He's a natural scorer. Patty Mills is not an innate point guard. He's a three-point shooter. DeLon Wright has always been a combo guard. Tyler Hero, combo guard. That's why when Kyle first came, it worked, because all of a sudden you were getting the ball on time, on target. Bam's not getting that right now. There's so many of these little things. We keep saying the Heat are close. They're in the conference finals. They're almost there. A true point guard makes all the difference in the world. Ryan Tannehill can try as much as he wants, but he's not seeing the window. Matter of fact, when Tua started, he didn't see the window. You have to see that window as a point guard in the NBA also. The Heat are missing some of that, and it just becomes have Jimmy try to do it all. That is a hard way to win. That is Jimmy leaning over the stanchion in the bubble with every last breath. You can't do that year after year after year.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could go back to the 06 championship and White Chocolate. It wasn't that he had to score a ton, but
exactly,
offense made everything else smooth.
And Gary Payton was an innate point guard coming off the bench. That's the kind of play you had there. And you know what? He wasn't called a point guard, but one of the greatest point guards in NBA history is LeBron James, because he knew where to get the ball at the right time. He told Mario Chalmers, go in the corner, go shoot your threes, and he would get you the ball in the right time. It's that innate point guard you're missing once again.
And Gary, again, you made 2 enormous shots in those finals, bro. I'll never forget that. One of them was in Game 5, and then the other one was it Game 3? I want to say.
It was from the wing, a little jumper there that kept him afloat. Yeah.
He hit some big. He had 2 huge shots.
Totally agree.
That should never go, unnoticed, overall. All right. So when's the fragile one coming back? Because he's out already for tomorrow.
I talked to him in the locker room yesterday. He seems to be moving well. I go, you look good, Tyler. He goes to me, you look good too. So I said, yeah, I don't have to look good. I need you to look good. He seems like he's close. But again, this is a chronic thing. At some point, you've got to push past it. You might not be your best self, but if Tyler doesn't push past this and come back almost immediately, you're going to run Jimmy Butler in the ground. You're going to be talking to me in our accurate Pembroke Pines report a month from now going, Ira, what's happened to Jimmy? We need the best of him. I'm going to go Big O, 38 minutes a game. The entire fourth quarter. Think about this. Jimmy Butler had to play the entire fourth quarter against the Washington Wizards, and they still lost. You can't run him into the ground like that. Someone else has to step up and say, I will be the guy. Hopefully that's Tyler. Hopefully it's soon. Number 2, I never thought that he would miss Kevin Love this much. But backup center has sort of been a disaster. Jovic is too frail to play that role. Thomas Bryant had a couple of defensive moments, not the guy. Orlando Robinson is perennially going to be this guy that you're going to tell me he looked great in Summer League. He's putting up great numbers in the G League, but that's his ceiling. God bless him, but that's Orlando Robinson's ceiling. So Kevin Love comes back. The power rotation gets settled. Tyler Hero comes back. Jimmy Butler can at least exhale, and he needs to do that right now.
And listen, Kevin Love is playing chess. That's the other thing. It's not the physical thing.
Smart.
It's also dude, the intelligence, the awareness on the court, those long ass passes. You have to have incredible awareness.
The secured rebounds. Big O, let's go back to the end of the Dallas game. Let's go back to the end of the Thunder game. If you had one guy with those paws that was going to put his hand on the ball and hold it, you beat Dallas, you beat OKC. Those offensive rebounds destroyed you in those 2 games. That's where you miss Kevin. He gets his hands on the ball. It's not like Joel Anthony. No one's knocking the ball out of his hands. That makes a difference also.
You know, and we, you know, for many years, Riley always went for veterans and stars and all that. And when you look at this team, it just doesn't have enough of those kind of guys. Because we just talked about, because it reminded me, oh, okay, you got Gary Payton. Oh, you got Shane Battier. Oh, you got Ray Allen. Oh, you went and got, you know, and you started getting
James
all
Posey, guys like that. Yeah.
Posey, you get veterans that have been there and done it, and they don't go small in the moment and all that. You don't have to count on them every night, but they can all they're so mature that at the moment that you need them, they can just step in and fill that role at that moment.
Big O, you know who I think is going to be that? You know who I think is going to be that this time around? I think if they get in the playoffs and they have moments of truth, I think Patty Mills can be that. I think he's shown that a little bit already. Look, he's not an 82-game player anymore. He's not a 25-minute-a-game player anymore. But at moments of truth, if the Heat are hunting for a three-pointer late in the game, I'll put my money on Patty Mills.
I'm with you there. All right, what are you working on the Sun Sentinel so folks can check
I wrote a story on Bam, and the one thing I like about Bam is he's a man. And he's acknowledging he's not good enough. And he's acknowledging he needs more, and it's on him, and he's going to do everything he can to push through. This is not a guy hiding from the moment. This is a guy recognizing the moment and vowing to do more. That's a huge step forward. That's a captain speaking. So I think that's important, that he knows he has to give more to do more. I'm working on a story on that, and then I'm doing a notebook later today just on the Patty Mills effect, in that what I like is the Heat. They brought in DeLon Wright, they brought in Patty Mills, and they said, let the best man win. And right now it looks like it's Patty Mills.
No, but you went from an old, broken down point guard to 3 point guards now. So you have depth
optionality,
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's just you got younger and you got deeper at that position. Again, I know there aren't any stars, or you kind of need that, but who knows, man? A bunch of these complimentary players can have, different nights, and then that'll carry you like it has for 4 years. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his work at the Sun Sentinel. Better yet, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, thank you, sir. Enjoy the basketball.
I'll catch you next week after a pair of games against the Pistons. If they lose one of those, I'll be hiding in some hotel in Philadelphia, so we will see. But I'll catch you next week in our accurate Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir. There you go, Ira Winderman. And don't forget to visit our friends at Acura of Pembroke Pines, baby. They know how to get it done. They've got the customer appreciation sales event going on right now at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. The 2024 Integra, that thing is beautiful. $329 a month. The 2023, we still have a few. TLX, $399 a month. The RDX, we've had 2 in our home. We got 1 now currently. The 2024 RDX, $459 a month. Go check out the selection. They are the #1 volume sales dealership in the United States, folks. So get out there, check out the brand new vehicles, and also check out the fleet of certified pre-owned vehicles too. A great selection there at Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show.